Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Tony Rizano, and you are listening to another episode of the world famous, the super world famous, the universally loved, the best podcast, ladies and gentlemen, the best show. Listen, I did a survey, and out of lots of people, millions and millions of people, they said online marketing moves was better than MASH. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm talking about. We are better than MASH, okay? But ladies and gentlemen, you and I, we just call this show Online Marketing Moves. And we are coming to you live today. Today is Tuesday, July the 15th, 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about something very important today. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about James Brown. Whoa! And we are going to talk about why you need to, sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, you just got to promote yourself. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, you just got to go out in the cold and do it all by yourself. And why do I bring up James Brown? We're going to talk James Brown. We're going to talk about Diddy. We're going to talk about Master P. We are going to talk about plenty of people who don't want to pay you. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you have to go. Sometimes, as my brother used to tell me, when he said that when you want to go see about a woman, sometimes you got to go solo dolo. You can't put everybody in the car with you. Okay, that's very true. I'll tell you a quick story, ladies and gentlemen, a very funny story. One time, um, I had a date. I had a date. Okay, and I was supposed to go see this. I was supposed to go out to eat with this young lady. This is a long time ago. Okay, in the late '90s, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, yesteryear, as we say. But anyway, I was supposed to go meet up with this young lady and go out to dinner. And I remember I had a friend, good old John Boy. John Boy was like, "Hey, can I come? I know some girls. I know some girls I can meet while you out having dinner, whatever, you know." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, John Boy be lying, so where you got going. And and I just remember, I remember my brother. Because my brother used to, when I got to be 17, 18, or rather, so eventually, you got to get rid of them. You got to get rid of these. You know, there was I used to hang out with a few people, but the only person my brother was like my little cousin Sean. He was like, of course we never gonna get rid of him. I said, but of course, he said, the rest of them suckers you hang out with, you gotta get rid of them at some point. I said, do I? He said, yeah, man, come on, man. You don't see it? I said, no, not really. He said, they ain't got nothing. They don't got nothing going on. And I was like, fast forward 30 years later, well, he wasn't lying because the only one I still hang around is my little cousin Sean. Okay, who knew? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Point is, I was supposed to go on a date, and my boy, John Boy, he was like, "Oh, I know some girls up there, man." And so he came along, other friend came along, cousin came along. And of course, I went to go meet the girl. We went to go have dinner, and you know, we stayed out. We went to the that it was this place. They had a nice downtown area. We went downtown and all that. And I get back and I drop her back off at the college, drop her back off. I see these fools. I see these fools sitting there, just sitting there. And they're like, where you been, dog? And I'm like, what? I thought y'all was going to meet people. And of course, my little cousin, he's like, man, they didn't know nobody, man. They went and knocked on one door, and them people wasn't even there. We just been sitting here ever since waiting for you to come back. But of course, but anyway, I just bring that up because it just reminded me. Sometimes sometimes you gotta go and do things alone, okay? And the reason why I bring this up is, you know, I was thinking about the podcast and thinking about the show. Now you know if you can get help. I got an email yesterday about an interview. I always get emails about interviews now, and I got to start doing interviews. I got to figure this out. You know, in between working and driving and working, when can I sit down and do interviews? Because I would love to interview more people. I would love to get more perspective about you know, marketing online or just running a business online, making money online, I want to help out more and more people. So interviews always help. Okay? So you gotta figure that part out. And if you know anybody that can help with that situation, see this is not the time to be solo. If you know anybody that can help me out with that situation, feel free to contact me. Email me, Tony at TonyResano.com, okay? It's Tony at TonyResano.com. If you know anybody that can help out with the interview and how I can set it up and all that stuff, greatly appreciate that. But now let's talk about start in the beginning, starting things solo. The reason why I bring this up is because I saw a comment once by this comedian named Jess Hilarious. Okay, Jess Hilarious. I think she used to do skits on the internet, and she would do this thing called Jess with the Mess, and and she grew in popularity, and she started doing more, more things outside of the internet. As I tell you before, you always want to grow from the internet, but you can always start. It's cool to start on the internet, but you always want to grow from the internet. Okay, and so she has done that, and she's on the Breakfast Club, and I remember she was in a movie. I don't even know if you want to call this movie. Master P at one point had a movie called I Got the Hook Up Too. And I'll tell you what, it's one of the worst. I it was one of the worst. I don't even know if you can call that a movie, but whatever. It don't matter. The point is, Jess Hilarious was in this movie. A lot of other comedians was in this movie, and Jess Hilarious said, "Hey, I was supposed to get paid $30,000 for this movie, and she did not get paid a dime." And so she just went. They was asking her about the movie, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm still owed like $15,000." And they was like, Master P didn't pay you? And she was like, nah, he paid me for one skit. He didn't pay me for the other one. So he owes me money. And so they did an interview with Master P, and they was like, Master P, Jess Hilarious was up here last week, and they say you owe her money. And then, of course, Master P, who, hey, listen, Master P, he has a he has a good mind for business, but Master P is he went to the James Brown School of Music. He went to the James Brown School of Business. What do I mean by that? James Brown was a great musician. Listen, James Brown had plenty of songs. We all know this. But James Brown used to always want to tell people, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But James Brown did not want to pay the people that, his dancers, the band. He did not want to pay these people. But he telling these people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. How can I pull myself up by the bootstraps if you're not going to pay me my money? Okay, how can I get started with my own thing if you're not going to pay me what you owe me? You got me tied up over here, touring and doing all this stuff, but you want to pay me peanuts while you buying planes and stuff. And so a lot of these musicians, they have went to the James Brown School of Business, from Master P to Diddy. Forget them allegations. Diddy has been hooking and crooking since Bad Boy popping back in the '90s, though. Um, Mace got out of there for a reason. Uh, e- every artist that's on Bad Boy has fallen out with Diddy because Diddy likes to hook and crook. Master P likes to hook and crook. You know, there Tyler Perry went to the James Brown School. Tyler Perry, yes, he'll pay Janet Jackson a lot of money, and that's great. But of course, he has to pay Janet Jackson a lot of money. Janet Jackson has a big platform. Tyler Perry, he will have people. There have been too many people that have accused Tyler Perry. They're like, hey, I wrote this script and Tyler Perry gave me no money, or Tyler Perry gave me the bare minimum, or he'll take credit for the money. All these guys have went to the James Brown School of Business, And what I mean by that is they want you to do a bunch of work. They want you to do all this work. And they don't want to pay you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes this is why, you have to just go out sometimes and just do it on your own. Start it, you do it. I know it might take longer. It might be longer. The process might be more of a struggle. But do you want to stand by somebody? And do you want to stand by somebody, get a bunch of glory, get a bunch of accolades, and make no money? What's the point? There's no point in that. Sometimes it's better for you just to swim up the stream on your own and developing your name and getting started that way than sitting there and can you imagine? Can you imagine you're going on world tours with James Brown and he not kick you down no type of money? Mm, mm, I'd be pissed. There's a lot of listen, as a person who's traveled up and down the country, as a person who's traveled up and down the country, it's a lot of work traveling. Okay, I know people love to talk about traveling, this, that, and the other, but let me tell you something about traveling. And I don't mean that BS you see with these people filming themselves on the plane and going to the Aruba. Listen, you got to wake up early. You got to get to the airport. You got to sit around. You're sitting around in these uncomfortable chairs. You're sitting around and waiting and waiting and waiting. You got to get on the plane. You got to get off the plane. You got to get in the car. You got to go. Listen, all of that it looks good. It sounds good, but to me, all that traveling, nope. And especially, I can imagine you traveling with James Brown, and he got you doing show after show after show, and you're not getting no dough. No, no, no. Couldn't be me. So that's why, you go on these platforms. I'm sure these people probably like, oh, you want to be on the whatever network, whatever podcast, and then you're like, hey, where's my money? I gotta pay you. I gotta pay you later. I gotta pay you later. Nah, I need my money today. I need my money right now. You gonna give my money or what? Like, what's going on? Where's my dough? And so sometimes you just have to, you know, sometimes you have to just do things on your own and learn the market, learn, learn on your own. Figure out the market, figure out who you're talking to, figure out who you want to talk to, figure out how to get your own likes, how to get your own follows. It, I know using other people's platform, other people's presence sometimes is great. Sometimes if you want to get paid, sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you have to just do it on your own. Now, because hey, listen, how long can you work for free? I get it in the beginning, maybe, but it's like, come on, if you have been, because can you imagine, you're just hilarious. You start off doing skits for nothing, for free. That's great. You build a presence. So now you got a name and you built the presence. So now you have a big following. And a lot of people watch her stuff. A lot of people watch her YouTube. A lot of people watch her on Instagram. All that stuff. And now you hook up with Master P. So okay, you're gonna go to and it's like who and at this point, it's really like and the reason why I bring this up is at this point, when it comes to the Just Hilarious and Master P, it's like who needs who? Who's the bigger name right now? Like, yeah, I know Master P because I grew up in the 90s. Well, let me see. I was born in 79. So yeah, I grew up in the 80s, but as I became an adult in the 90s. So I definitely knew Master P, okay? So it's like I know Master P, but who needs who? And it's like when you get then another reason you when you get to a certain point, it's like I don't need this. I don't need to be working for free. Like why should I work for free at this point? I got a name. I can go get paid, you know. I heard a clip of I saw a clip of Charleston White, and he was saying how he was doing he went to Cam Newton's podcast, and at that point he had already built up a name. He already had a following, and he went to Cam Newton's platform, and they did an interview, and it was like a 3 hour interview, and it got 11 million views, which is a great number to get. And he said, Cam Newton didn't pay him anything, and Cam Newton didn't pay him nothing. And then I guess after Cat Williams and Shannon Sharp did their interview, and it had like 50 million people watched it. Cam Newton called Charleston White back, and Charleston White said, "Nah, man, you didn't pay me. You didn't pay me money the first time. The first time I let it slide. I got you 10 million views, and you still didn't kick me down to your money. So why would I come back the second time?" And he's absolutely correct. Once you, and this is why we talk about building a brand, building the name, adding value to your name. Once you get a certain amount of cachet, once you build your name, then you can start willing and dealing. And this is why I say, hey, there's two ways you can go about it. You can swim upstream, which I think you should do, or because honestly, sometimes if you get caught up in the I'm going to be on this, let's say you want to be on the Joe. Let's say you become a little host of, Joe Budden has you on the show, and you're just sitting there, you know, making comments. Where do you go from there? The sponsors, they're not looking for you. They're looking for Joe Budden. The sponsors are not. They're talking to the Joe Budden show. And if you're not associated with the Joe Budden show, where are you going to go? And how long do you think, you know, you could be like, oh, I fell out with Joe Budden. And then it's like, where are you gonna go from there? You might be hot for a second, but where do you go from there? What are you gonna do? You're always gonna be until you know, wipe away the Joe Budden, thing. Where are you gonna go? Um, so it's uh it's a thing. you know, I just recommend you, no matter what you do, I always recommend that you be creating your own content, you be starting your own platform. You make sure that no matter if you join a big old band, you make sure that you have solo projects. Okay, don't don't wait until something bad happens. Until you're not riding the wave no more. Um, don't do that. Always be thinking, all right, what's gonna happen? Always be, saying, hey, let me make sure I got things in lined up, because you never know what's gonna happen to a platform. You never know what's gonna happen to a record label. You never know what's gonna happen to people. All right, me, I say we just gonna swim upstream. We just gonna do the Tony Rosano thing and swim and swim and swim. No no joining up. Solo dolo. You know, so that's just me. But for you, I highly recommend that no matter what, that you create something for yourself. That it doesn't matter if you hook up with somebody. It doesn't matter if you're, in a group, in a band. I suggest that you be making sure that you have some music for yourself when the time comes. I remember Drew Hill. Drew Hill was a group. They had a nice run, and then I remember Cisco. He came out with a solo album. They didn't think that there was gonna be, you know, jumping off. Cisco, their first album sold 5 million, and Drew Hill ain't been the same ever since. Okay, it became the Cisco show. And it became, and where's Woody? Where's Jazz? Where's Nokio? Where's all them guys at, huh? Somewhere. But it's more, hey, where's Cisco? We want to hear about the Thong song. We want to hear about, uh, Incomplete and all them other songs that Cisco had. That second album, I don't know what Cisco was thinking. That first album, it was on point, and kind of drove a wedge between the group. So them guys, they should have saw the writing on the wall, and they should have said, "Hey, let me start making some music too, man. Let me go ahead and while the getting's good." Hey, me personally, I say swim. I say make sure you are creating your own platform. Make sure you are creating your own content. Make sure you are setting yourself up so that way, whenever if things go wrong, if you're in a band and you're in a group, you're in a whatever. Okay. You see Johnny Knoxville. He didn't always need jackass. Johnny Knoxville became his own entity. Okay. So you might want to always be on the lookout for all of that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, that is it. We will be back tomorrow with the all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. But until then, my name is Tony Rosano. Thank you for listening. God bless each and every one of you. And as always, everybody, peace.